Okay, so we are going to start a little bit, a beginning point where we left off. Page Kuf Nun Gimel. Oy Samach. We'll start right there. Umeyato, and hence, Tzorich Lahavi. Now we need to understand. After having explained what we explained, now we need to understand the next step. Mahu ha'hefresh, we'll introduce it in a moment. Mahu ha'hefresh, legabe ho'elomis. What difference does it make relative to the worlds? Bechinas makif ha'klali, between whether they relate to the makif ha'klali, the general makif, that precedes it seemed to bechinas makif ha'klali, relative to the makif ha'klali, sheli acharat seemed. That comes after the tzimtzum. So now we have to review a little bit the principle of makif ha'klali and the two levels in makif ha'klali. Makif ha'klali sheli pnei ha'tzimtzum, makif ha'klali sheli acharat tzimtzum. First, just a quick reference. Makif ha'klali. Klali means the general, the all-encompassing. Because as we explained previously, that in makif 2, there could be a makif that is focused to a particular aspect. And then there's a makif that is klali, that encompasses everything. For example, in a human being, there are two distinct levels, two distinct qualities, both of great importance, of central importance. The seichel, makif, and midas. Makif and midas are very, very different, but they're both central to the human being. Maybe I'll also take my jacket off. It's a little more. Pardon me for being so informal. There is a makif, as we started saying, that pertains to moichin. Moichin means the intellect. In the intellect itself, there are several different distinct levels. Within each one of these levels, there's a huge spread. Chochma, Bina, Vadas is all moichin. Chochma itself, there is a huge spread, and Bina is a huge spread, and Das is a huge spread.
To remain on this call, press 1.
Just in case.
Returning to the conference room.
But all of these qualities of moichin, Chochma, Bina, and Das, and all their details are all encompassed within a makif, which means a general principle, a general content of what moichin stands for. This is also called makif, but it's not a makif klali, which means encompassing everything. It has a specificity. It has a specific definition of this, of what it's makif. We can all readily understand that there is a fundamental difference between chokhmah and bina, although both are part of makif. The makif of makif incorporates and gives a perspective, a single perspective for both chokhmah and bina. This means makif, which is a makif, but not makif klali. It's a makif that is specifically geared towards makif. Similarly, in midas, likewise, there's a makif. Then there is what we discussed over here. It says what's called makif klali. Makif that is not distinguished at all between the various qualities. It encompasses everything equally. For example, I'm coming back to the human level. Seichel moichin is stationed in the brain, in the head. Midas are basically attributed to the heart. In order that there be meichin in the brain and midas in the heart, there has to be a living human being. This life quality, and it's a human life quality, not an animalistic life quality, it's a human life quality, a very unique type of life quality that allows for meichin and for midas. This incorporates and recognizes as a total overview of meichin and midas together. This, in a certain sense, is called makif klali. A makif which is above being distinguished by what its content is. But it's called makif klali. But this makif klali incorporates, let me say, human qualities. If you want to break this down, there's a makif for moichin. There's a makif that includes only moichin. Makif that includes only midas. This is also a makif. But it's not of the caliber of the makif. That's called the makif klali. Now the question is, what is the distinguishing factor? What makes the klali? How come this makif is also be a makif klali, and this makif is also be a makif that is focused and is geared on a specific quality? And the answer, of course, is like we said before, that in order to have any qualities, a person has to be alive. The life factor, the life phenomenon, this is superior to any distinguishing qualities. Where is, and let's get into this for a moment. What are the distinguishing qualities based on, and what is this makif klali based on? The makif klali let me step down a little bit so that we don't understand. The makif that has the distinguishing qualities is a makif that defines the qualities of a human being. How the human being relates to his world, how the human being functions in the world. And there are different general points like moichin and midas. But this is already at the point where you say the human being is a presence in the world. Within that context, that he has presence in the world, he has two general levels, and then each one has a makif. The life element that encompasses both of these levels here I'm going to say something I'd like to understand, does not even belong to the human being. His intellect is a human intellect. Emotion is a human emotion. He understands and he knows what it is. The life doesn't belong to him. He cannot make or diminish or increase life. He can increase the amount of moichin. He can focus in the moichin, understand deeper and more, and so he develop moichin. Midas. Life is not a developed quality in the human being. He doesn't even know what it is. The human being attempts to understand and focus in what life is. He's liable to lose it. Because it doesn't fit in any of his compartments. It cannot be compartmentalized. There's no hand, no foot, no mouth, no ear. This is something which is given to him by the Creator himself. We talk about the human being. The truth is that every living thing is, in that respect, similar, but a human being, of course, is the pinnacle. As it says, I always quote, Nase Odem Betzal Meinagid Musay. In the fact that he encompasses all of these qualities is not a human quality at all. It's Betzal Meinagid Musay. It is a divine definition in the human being himself. The fact that he can encompass intellect and emotion in one entity, this is not a created entity. Doesn't fit in the world perspective. In order to incorporate both moichin and midas, the human being has to recognize something greater than the created entity, the human being. This is where we always speak about beetle, the cognizance of the divine presence. You cannot focus in, I'm just an intellect, I'm just emotion. That's not the reality of the creation. The reality of the creation is a cognizance, recognition.
To remain on this call, press 1.
The reality is the divine presence in his life, in the world. This is what's real. And this is not identified by moichin or midas. This is something which is given to him by the Creator. And he relates to it exclusively by this is the Creator's. The world I'm walking in, it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the Creator. I always point out an interesting phenomenon in our experience. You walk down the road. You slide down a staircase. You don't even notice that this walking down the staircase is an enormous accomplishment. Step after step, and it requires a lot of concentration, identity, and so forth. Especially when you go up, you run up a staircase, you don't even know that you went up a staircase. You slide down the staircase, you don't even know that it happened. Unless you reach a certain age where it becomes a tedious. But otherwise, you just slide down, you don't even know that it's there.
Indicating
that you are doing this not as what you are, but as part of the bigger reality. That's what it's indicating. You want to drink a cup of water, know where that comes from. It doesn't come from the cup.
Doesn't come from the cup. Doesn't come from me. Doesn't come from.
This is where the principle of makif is defined, as we discussed already. Within that itself, as I said, there is makif that pertains to a specific quality, like moichin and minis. Then there is a makif that's called makif klali. Makif klali is a representation of the spirit of the Creator Himself. Only the Creator can correlate equally, totally with total equality. Hashwa, moichin and minis. This is a unique gift from the Creator to the human being. But some Melekid was saying that he also has a perspective like that. But this perspective by him is not part of his creation, so it does not belong to him, it belongs to the Creator. And he has it only so long as he recognizes the presence of the Creator. God forbid if he loses that and he wants to focus on his worldly presence, then he's in big trouble. But from a functional perspective. Now we have explained, and this is what the Rebbe is now focusing in, that there is this makif hakloli, which is clearly representative, as we said, the Creator's presence, contribution to this creation, to this entity. Doesn't belong to him. It's something which is higher than him. Within that general quality, there are two levels. As we explained, it's called Tehira Yelo and Tehira Tator, Bifrei HaTzimtzum and Achar HaTzimtzum. There are two distinct, if we can identify it, if we can understand it, two very clear, distinct levels in terms of the presence of the Creator in the creation. Of course, the only creature that relates to that is the human being. What are these two distinct levels? It is the Creator, as the Creator is in his own reality, the truth of the presence of the Creator himself, and the creator as he already relates to the creation.
Wait, the first was
Huh?
first. The higher level was,
The creator himself.
but and that's still considered a makif to world.
Yeah. Oh. Yes. We discussed it at great length, and let me bring it back. We have to understand this. We said many times, going back to when we learning this Indian. In a company, you have a whole structure.
The board of directors.
Excuse me?
The board of directors.
You have a whole structure. Yeah, you have the managers, the floor managers. Then you have the various levels of managers, the management. Then you reach up to the president of the company, who is responsible for the whole entire company. Then you reach up to the board of directors. Then you reach up to the chairman of the board. And we pointed out, the higher you go, the less occupation was involved he is with the company.
Right, but in that marshal, he still has a position in that.
Zero.
But he's a member of that board. In fact, the chair of that board. In our Nimshal, he's not.
One second. What does it mean? What is it mean he's a member of the board? How is the board confine him to a position?
But even remotely, he is associated with that board of that company. Masha Enken, by our Nimshal, seemingly we're talking of a level where God is unto himself.
The chairman of the board invented the board. There was no board.
And the company, but he's facing that direction.
No, he's not.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is. The chairman of the board, like I mentioned many times, when there's officers discussing what should we do next thing, they can discuss it from all kinds of different angles, from the company's perspective. What would be more beneficial, more benefit, more profit, and so forth. Then the chairman of the board comes in and he sits by the meeting. And they said, what are you discussing? We're discussing. He has a completely different approach.
Right.
I'd like you to do this.
Fine. How does that match with the creator Shelifnei Hatzimtzum?
Okay, so this, okay, you jump in the gun. Okay, this is only to make us think in terms of a little bit. To understand that there are different levels, and there are levels which are not related, that are not part of the process at all. Even in chairman of the board, he's not part of the process. He simply says how I want it. Not because the company will benefit. This is the way the company will be successful.
I keep thinking of the king before he becomes king, and there his relationship with the nation is tenuous or non-existent. So too over here, this makif Shelifnei Hatzimtzum, before he even thought of making a world, how's it a makif?
Okay. The only way that we can delve into that level, or let's go back to our world, the chairman of the board. What decided that he be the chairman? Theoretically, again, I'm saying theoretically because the world doesn't live up to that level of perfection. But theoretically, he's a chairman because he belongs in that position. Because he has a broader perspective than all other members of the board. He relates to the company not as a company, but as a company part of a big world. How is this company not going to serve my investors? How is this company going to serve my country? How is the company going to serve the world? There is that perspective too. There are people who build companies because they feel this will be a general benefit on an international level. Very few, but there are such people.
Yes, there are.
What?
There are.
There are people like that. They have a completely different perspective, different relation. Their life is on a different level. This is all in the motion. So the union of makif hakloli, and as we say, explaining makif hakloli, is makif hakloli from before the tzimtzum, and there is makif hakloli le'achar tzimtzum. Even before the tzimtzum. Before the tzimtzum means the way Elokus is unto itself, the reality of Elokus itself. The reality of Elokus itself permits the creation of a world. It's not imperative. In other words, that doesn't define him. But nonetheless, there is no limit. Lahavdil, in the mashal, this is like the chairman of the board, who is not even interested in the company. He's building up a world. And he's building a world not because he has Rahmanis and something is faulty, something is falling apart, but because he wants to build the world. If he can project such a human being. Avraham Avinu was walking around the world among idol worshippers. They were happy in their crevices, cracks and crevices. They built temples, they built all kinds of different things, and they were active. Avraham Avinu came and says, "You're missing the whole thing. You have to dismantle this whole structure. Start over again. You're missing the life force, the reality that this represents." It took a lot of effort and many years, all to the point where he was thrown in the furnace. But you're destroying our reality, our life. How dare you? And he came out unscathed from the furnace. That showed everybody, oh yeah, there is something beyond what we were identified with. Look at this. The furnace was the final, the decider of what's going to be. He goes into the furnace and comes right out. Let me touch you. Are you flesh and blood? That changed the perspective of the whole world.